I would like to share some of my own experience with you. For 12 years, I serve as a headmaster of a primary school in Tanzania. Since 2008, I was responsible for managing one of the schools run by our congregation. During those years, I learned many things, and today I would like to explain the difference between church schools and other types of schools in Tanzania. I think this may be easier for you to understand than you realize. Perhaps many years ago, the situation in Germany was not so different. I am not an expert on German history, but I believe that education here began largely through churches and church institutions. Some of the first and best schools were church schools. Children learned reading and writing, but they also learned practical things. They learned faith, values, responsibility, and skills for everyday life. In many parts of Africa, and certainly in Tanzania, this situation still exists today. In Tanzania, we basically have three kinds of schools. First, we have church schools, like the school project in Nala that you have heard about today. Second, we have government schools. And third, we have private schools that are mainly run as businesses. These three types of schools exist side by side. I come from a Kilimanjaro region, one of the more developed parts of Tanzania. We have many schools there, including many church schools. Some of the pictures shown earlier could easily have been taken in my region. When I was serving as a headmaster, I often looked at school rankings and examination results. There were around 400 primary schools in the area, and when the results were published, something interesting happened again and again. Among the top 100 schools, the great majority were church schools. The question is, why? The government knows this. The education authorities know this. Everyone knows this. It is not because government schools lack money. In fact, the government often has far more money available than any church school. Government schools receive funding for teachers. They receive funding for books. They receive funding for buildings. They receive funding for equipment and school infrastructure. The money exists. The real question is, what happens once the money begins its journey? As Father John explained earlier, money can disappear along the way. Part of it reaches the schools. Part of it does not. And this is where an important difference appears. The difference is discipline. And when I say discipline, I do not mean punishment. I mean responsibility. I mean making sure that the school actually serves the children it was created to serve. In a church school, somebody is paying attention. Somebody makes sure that what belongs to the children actually reaches the children. Somebody checks that the teachers are teaching. Somebody checks that the books are being used. Somebody checks that the buildings are maintained. That makes a huge difference. A school is not only a collection of classrooms. A school is a living community. And if nobody takes responsibility, the system slowly falls apart. As a headmaster, I learned this lesson very clearly. If I was not strict with the teachers, some of them would come to school, sit there all day, do very little, and still receive their salary at the end of the month. Of course, I understand part of the problem. Teachers in Tanzania are often paid very little. Sometimes they struggle to support their own families. Sometimes they are discouraged. Sometimes they feel forgotten. I understand all of that. But even so, when a teacher enters a classroom, that teacher has a responsibility toward the children. The children deserve an education. The children deserve someone who is willing to invest in their future. And when that happens, the results are remarkable. That is why students from our schools often achieve some of the best examination results in the country. But success is not only about examination results. In fact, what I am most proud of is not what happens on the examination papers. I am proud of what happens when the children return home. When our students go home for holidays, you can often see the difference immediately. They begin applying what they have learned. They help their families. They take responsibility. They understand that work has value. For example, they know that grass must be cut and collected for the cows. They understand that cows provide milk, and they understand that milk helps support the family. They begin connecting effort with results. They learn responsibility. They learn practical life skills. They also learn about cleanliness and hygiene. Children from our schools know that when you clean a room properly, you should use soap. Why do they know that? Because that is how we clean at school. It becomes part of their daily habits. They also learn about health. They learn that drinking unsafe water can be dangerous. They learn that boiling water can prevent disease. They learn how illnesses spread. They learn how to protect themselves and their families. These may sound like simple lessons, but simple lessons can save lives. Education is not only reading. Education is not only writing. Education is also learning how to live a healthy and responsible life. And that is where schools can transform entire communities. A child learns something at school, then that child brings the knowledge home. Then the whole family benefits. And over time, the entire village begins to change. That is the power of education. There is another important example. In our schools, children also learn about practices that can be harmful to their health and their future. For example, they learn about female genital mutilation. They learn that it is dangerous. They learn that it causes suffering. They learn that it should not continue. And when these children return home, they start asking questions. Sometimes they challenge traditions that have been accepted for generations. Sometimes they become the first people in their families to say, "This is not right." That is one reason why some communities are not always happy when children attend our schools. They know the children will come back changed. The children will come back thinking differently. They will ask questions. They will challenge practices that have always existed. In a sense, they become small revolutionaries. And honestly, that is exactly what we want. Not revolution through violence, not revolution through anger, but revolution through knowledge. A child who understands hygiene can prevent disease. A child who understands education can create new opportunities. A child who understands human dignity can protect others. That is how societies change. That is how development happens. One educated child can influence an entire family. An educated family can influence a village. And a village can influence a nation. This is why I am so grateful for projects like the one in Nala. If we truly want to help children in Africa, then education is one of the best investments we can make. The support that comes through the church reaches people directly. It reaches schools. It reaches classrooms. It reaches children. And we are committed to making sure that the support is used properly. We want every contribution to benefit the children. We want every donation to become an opportunity. And we hope that when people visit Nala and see the school with their own eyes, they will recognize that the support is making a real difference. The reality is very simple. If we want to help Africa, we must educate children. Education is one of the strongest tools for changing society. It creates knowledge. It creates responsibility. It creates opportunity. And most importantly, it creates hope. T.I. can also speak from my own family experience. There were 8 children in my family. My parents had 8 children, and only 2 of us received a higher education. One of them is me. The other is one of my brothers. The rest did not have the same opportunity. Why? Because education was expensive. My parents grew coffee on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro. Coffee gave them some income, but not enough to educate all of us. So they had to make choices. They decided to invest in the education of one son because they believed that if one child succeeded, he would later help the others. That was their hope. And in many African families, that is still the reality today. Education is not simply a personal achievement. Education is an investment made by an entire family. My brother eventually had 5 children. I have no children because I became a priest. But our family learned something important through education. And I see the same pattern all across Africa. The people who have received an education often have fewer children. This is something I have observed again and again. Many people think that if you want families to have fewer children, you should simply tell them to do so. But that does not work. You cannot stand in front of a microphone and tell people, "Please have fewer children." Life is not that simple. People need reasons. People need opportunities. People need a future. When parents know that every child will go to school, they begin to think differently. They know there will be school fees. They know there will be books to buy. They know there will be expenses and responsibilities. And naturally, family size often becomes smaller. That is why I believe that smaller families are often not the cause of development. They are the result of development. Education comes first. Opportunity comes first. Hope comes first. And many other positive changes follow. So when we speak about helping Africa, we should not begin by telling people what to do. We should begin by educating children. Children are the future. Children are the generation that will change society. Children are the generation that will build stronger communities. And that is why I believe so strongly in supporting schools. I would like to thank the Isidore Project once again for making this work possible. Together, we are helping children receive an education. Together, we are helping families. Together, we are helping communities. And together, we are helping to create a better future. As we often say in Tanzania, a cup of coffee can educate a child. Thank you very much. God bless you all. When I look back on my years as a school leader, I realize that education is about much more than classrooms, examinations, or certificates. Education changes how people think. Education changes how families live. Education changes what children believe is possible for their future. I have seen this with my own eyes. I have seen children arrive at school shy and uncertain. A few years later, those same children were speaking confidently, solving problems, and dreaming about careers they had never imagined before. I have seen parents who could not read or write make great sacrifices so that their children could have opportunities they never had themselves. And I have seen entire communities benefit when just a few children received a good education. That is why I believe that helping children is one of the most important things we can do, not because children are the future. People say that very often, but because children are also the present. The decisions we make today will affect their lives tomorrow. Every classroom matters. Every teacher matters. Every child matters. And sometimes even a small contribution can make a very big difference. A notebook may seem small. A school uniform may seem small. A textbook may seem small. But for a child who has very little, these things can open doors that would otherwise remain closed. That is why I am grateful for support that comes from people like you. You may live thousands of kilometers away from Tanzania. You may never meet the children personally, but your support reaches them. Your generosity reaches them. Your concern reaches them. And because of that, children are receiving opportunities they would never have had otherwise. For that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for caring. Thank you for believing in education. Thank you for helping us invest in the next generation. Together we can continue changing lives, one child at a time. And that is something truly worth doing. Every child who receives an education gains a better chance in life. And every child who gains that chance can help build a better future for others. That is why this work matters so much. Thank you very much. May God bless you, your families, and all those who support the children of Tanzania.